U.S. Judge halts Trump's National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C. Left viewpoints. A federal judge ruled that President Donald Trump and the Defense Department illegally deployed the National Guard in Washington, D.C. because they exceeded their authority and acted contrary to law. Washington, D.C.'s Attorney General's office sued the Trump administration over the National Guard's deployment. Federal District Judge Cobb stated that the Trump administration exceeded the bounds of their authority in deploying Guard troops for non-military missions. Cobb's order allows the Trump administration 21 days to appeal the decision before requiring the National Guard to leave the district. Center viewpoints. On Thursday, U.S. District Judge Cobb ordered an end to the months-long National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C., stayed for 21 days to allow an appeal until December 11. Cobb wrote that the administration exceeded its authority by deploying the D.C. National Guard for non-military missions without a city request and lacked statutory authority under 32 U.S.C. for a 502. On Wednesday, the deployment included over 2,100 Guard forces from D.C. and several states, with Guardsmen tasked with patrols and beautification efforts according to the U.S. Army. Schwab's office said, normalizing the use of military troops for domestic law enforcement sets a dangerous precedent. Arguing out-of-state troops divert local resources, while Justice Department attorneys called the lawsuit frivolous. Across the country, the ruling joins challenges in Chicago, Portland, Orr, Los Angeles, and Memphis, while Indiana plans 300 troops for December and South Carolina and Tennessee have released many members. Right viewpoints. A federal judge ruled that the Trump administration's deployment of the National Guard to Washington, D.C. was unlawful, citing an overreach of presidential authority. U.S. District Judge Cobb stated that the president cannot deploy the D.C. National Guard for crime deterrence under federal law. Cobb granted a temporary pause on her ruling until December 11 to allow for an appeal, minimizing disruption to the public. D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab praised the ruling, calling it a victory for local governance and highlighting the dangers of military overreach. Bias comparison. Left-leaning coverage frames the judge's order to halt the National Guard deployment as a victory for D.C. against an illegal military takeover, using terms like unrighteous. Right-leaning outlets, however, portray the ruling as a judicial coup by a Biden judge, highlighting Trump's justifications for addressing rampant crime. Center-leaning reports maintain a neutral tone, presenting it as a temporary legal setback, and detailing the D.C. Attorney General's lawsuit. While all acknowledge the judge's core finding that the deployment illegally intrudes on local authority and the appeal stay, the left emphasizes local autonomy, the right questions, judicial legitimacy, and the center focuses on procedural facts, revealing ideological divides over executive power and judicial impartiality.